All right, Andy Broadway, and I'm here with one of my dearest friends that I've met, I don't even know how many years ago, but let's make the introduction. John Spencer Ellis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have to roll this back a little bit. I think it's comical how we met. I mean, it's ironic because I've never met anybody in this fashion before. So you're in for a bit of a story, and then we're going to get into a little bit of who John Spencer Ellis. So Friday evening, I'm at my house, sitting in front of my computer. I get a call about 9:45 on a Friday evening, and my business at that time, I was selling DVDs online, so there was a bunch of like personal development DVDs, and I had some other ones, individual websites for them. I'd done some SEO and all that with them, and I was selling DVDs, and I get a call from this guy on the other end of the line. He goes, "Is this Andy Broadway?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he says, how are you selling my movie on your website? And I said, well, I got it from this lady. She was the one that I got a pile of DVDs that I bought from her, and I bought them at wholesale, and I'm selling them. And you go, oh, well, okay, I know her, and everything is good. He says, my name is John Spencer Ellis, and I am the producer and owner of the creator, director of that movie called The Compass, which was fantastically done. And that began a long-term relationship that we've had. And the way I describe it is you weren't like, you weren't mad or anything. You were just more curious, like, because people were knocking your stuff off.
Yeah, well,
right?
Unfortunately, and I had heard that had happened to many other movies in the self-help, personal development genre. And, it's unfortunate, and you just have to do your due diligence. That was all.
Yeah, and that's what you were doing. And so since that point, tell us a little bit about what that movie was, so that because people can go to Netflix right now.
I have it online.
Online?
I have it online.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about that movie then.
The movie is The Compass. Yeah. We filmed it in about 9 months in 2008. It was released in February of 2009. It was my answer to The Secret, because although The Secret was fun and inspirational, and it got people excited and thinking about the way they think, there were some pieces missing in my perspective, and that was, how do you have an action plan, and what are the steps that you take? And you can't just sit and meditate and have everything come to you. You need to take the action after you create the vision to bring it full circle. So it was a strategy in creating different buckets of knowledge, like home and family and spirituality and all these different things that are like the wheel of life that we often see that coaches use. It was kind of like that, and we made them into chapters into the book and into the movie as well. And by the way, the book came out a couple months after the movie was released, and has since been translated into, I think, 7 different languages. Wow. Yeah, so it's done really, really well. And about 5 to 10 million people, I forgot what the last count was, has seen The Compass. And if people want to see it, they can go to thecompass.tv and watch it online for free.
Wow, that's awesome. So that kind of began it. So you never know where you're going to meet people. It's like it was very curious, how that all began to happen. But through that time, that time frame, you go back to 2009. I guess now you put a time on this. We've had lunch together. We've met at your place. We have had really in-depth conversations. But who is John Spencer Ellis?
This would be interesting as I divulge this, because now my mom can know. It's funny. I actually talked to her on the phone on the way to the studio today to film. And she's 82 and still doing great. So who am I? Gosh, that's a very good question. I'm complex and also super simple. Complex in terms that I like really deep conversations. I love philosophy. I love space science, geology. I wanted to be a geologist before I did all the different things I do now. I'm interested in thinking beyond what most conversations, where they take place on a daily basis. I've seen the memes out there, like nothing is more stimulating than a really deep, meaningful, philosophical, thought-provoking conversation with good people. And that's the complex side of me. I love that, and I always want to learn. I love in-depth conversations with super smart people. The simple part of me is that I like sleeping in when I can. I love my coffee in the morning. I like playing with my French bulldogs, Lily and Lucy, and I like going for walks with my wife, Kelly. And travel. I love to travel. In the last few years, I've been to about 20 different countries, and it's been awesome. So to me, so it's simple and it's complex.
Yeah.
The complex is kind of the philosophical, what's the bigger purpose, what's the meaning of life kind of stuff, and the astrophysics and quantum physics and all that stuff. I love it. And then like really simple, I like watching a really good Netflix show and scratching my dog behind her ear.
That's awesome. So where do you think your beginning path and the journey in personal development began?
Well, like most people, it began by watching a Tony Robbins infomercial. But also, it began by watching the Olympics with my father. Because he was a bodybuilder and a boxer and an entrepreneur as well. And so he kind of combined his ideas of different things with experiences that we'd have together. And so we'd watch the Olympics, and we would watch, example, the powerlifting, which is the snatch and the clean and jerk. Those are the two Olympic lifts that they do. And I was a young kid at the time, and I was just fascinated. These huge guys could lift all this weight. It was insane. And so he was explaining, how they can prepare themselves mentally. Then it showed kind of backstage. The camera would go backstage, and it showed their coach talking to him. He goes, "Well, John, that's the sports psychology. That's a pep talk." And they'd take a hit of the smelling salts and wake up, and they'll slap him in the face and do whatever they had to do. And he says, "You see, you can only be as strong physically as you are mentally." Ooh. And so he's telling me this as a young kid. I'm thinking, I didn't quite all gel together.
Yeah.
But then, I saw more work from Tony Robbins. Then I read a lot of books. And back in the day, too, one of the first experiences I had is going to the bookstore and buying cassette tapes. Just to date things a little bit. Books on tape. And then I remember also in Southern California, in Orange County, if you guys are familiar with it, it's a city of Laguna Hills. There was a store where you could get a membership and rent out all these different personal development and business audio books and pamphlets and stuff like that. And you'd go through them all and you'd turn them back in. It's almost like a library card, but you had a paid membership.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I literally would go there every day, and I would go through things as fast as I could every day. And that's how it all started.
Wow, that's awesome. So what would you say that one of your underlining principles of your success has been?
An underlying principle of my success has been persistence. The only difference between someone who wins or gets what they want and someone who doesn't is that the person who gets it didn't quit.
Yeah.
Now, it's true that you can have a better path, a shorter path. You can compress time. You can have a better experience along the way. But if you quit, you never get to the finish line, and those are the people who often are very unfulfilled because they didn't quite do what was necessary. So I think the thing that has helped me is that I'm super disciplined, and I am incredibly consistent in everything that I do. Very consistent. Even like what I have for breakfast and what time do I go to bed, and rituals and behaviors and processes which can create redundancy, but it also creates neuroplasticity and better pathways in your brain to enhance that so you can do it easier with more joy and more expeditiously over time. And then you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and then you ultimately arrive at the point you need to be at, as long as you also are pliable enough, because things change all the time and you get new information. If people are dogmatic about their approach to something, that's when they also get in trouble. Imagine if we made a plan to do something on the internet. We go, I'm gonna have an internet business, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it was before Facebook, and then all the things that are possible through Facebook, you're so dogmatic about it, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You would likely fail. So you have to be flexible, even though you're strict with certain disciplines.
I agree. So what is one of those challenges, if we peel back John Spencer Ellis and says, what was one of the biggest hurdles or challenges that you had to overcome, and at what period of life was that?
There's 2 times.
Yeah.
One is having a reading difficulty at a young age. I'm dyslexic and has some ADD. don't all of us entrepreneurs?
Yes.
So that made reading incredibly challenging. And still to this day, I can comprehend, understand, and enjoy audiobooks much better. So I learned my cognitive style of learning, and then now that's what I do. I just prefer it. I still read, and I can read, of course.
Yeah.
But it's not as pleasant.
Yeah.
As doing an audiobook. So for certain things, I become an auditory learner. For other things, I become a visual learner. For other things, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And then putting them together, you can sometimes do even better because you store the information in your brain in different ways in different places. The second challenge I had was in my late 20s when I believed my own hype. Because it's so stupid, but it's true. At that point, I started getting a lot of recognition for the things I was doing. And a lot of people don't even know this about me, but I swear this is true. So between like 27 and 31, 32, I was named one of America's most eligible bachelors.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was asked to be on The Bachelor TV show twice. Declined.
Yeah. Aren't you glad you did?
I'm so glad I did. And then I did a celebrity bachelor auction in Beverly Hills at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And some of the guys there it was Ryan Seacrest, Fabio, I swear. And then some of the guys from Baywatch, this is going back, right? It was Baywatch and General Hospital. Oh my gosh. So, and all that stuff was happening. And then I was in fitness magazines and all that kind of stuff. And then people were saying, oh, you're great, you're doing this. And then The Real Housewives came out a few years after that. And I did 2 seasons on that show. And it was just too much stuff all at once without someone slapping me and saying, knock it off.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm such a different person than I was then. Oh my gosh. But I'm glad I went through it because now looking back on the other side of it, I've just learned so much. It would have been nice if I could have compressed that so it wasn't so drawn out.
Right.
But I'm grateful for all the opportunities. It's incredibly flattering, and I'm glad all that's over.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So when you were talking about dyslexia, it's true to my heart. It's something dearing to my heart because both of my older daughters were initially diagnosed with dyslexia. I think we were talking off camera where you said that you were assessed with it. You were in 6th grade and only reading at the 3rd grade level.
Approximately, yeah.
In that area. My daughters had a much bigger gap, meaning that there was a much bigger age difference in there and a much bigger gap that they had to catch up on. And one of the things that I discovered through the process, and maybe you're aware of this book or not, the book was titled The Gift of Dyslexia.
Oh, no.
And it's a fascinating book because if you look at the word dyslexia and you understand who has dyslexia and all the celebrities and some of the influencers and some of the people way in our past, they have it because it's a gift.
Some of the most brilliant people I know have dyslexia.
Exactly, because it's a gift. And
what I learned is that why it's a gift, like ADD and ADHD and dyslexia and OCD and things like that. OCD is probably a little bit different. But what happens is we have to learn how to learn differently.
Yeah.
Because everyone else goes through the same routine. They learn the same way. They're indoctrinated the same way. But because it's difficult for someone who has these mental challenges to learn in that way, we have to be creative and learn and experience life and have a cognitive style that's different, so it allows us to perceive things differently, which can give you an advantage because other people don't see it. And it's almost like the Matrix, when you're the person who can see and you can dodge the bullets, right? Because you can see things differently or slower, or just differently in general, and that allows you to have a strategic advantage. So it's learning how to learn based on how you have the ability to learn. So it's basically using your brain the way it's currently functioning rather than fighting it. And oftentimes, because the teachers, the administrators, or whoever it is in the educational system, the academic system, don't have these challenges, they can't imagine that someone could be successful by being non-compliant.
Yes.
But it's the non-compliancy which allows for creativity, new thinking, and innovation. And disruption.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look at Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Dyslexia.
Yeah.
The guy has no idea, and he confesses all the time, I don't know the difference between profit and loss. I read in the book. He said his accountant has to explain to him every single time a profit and loss statement. He gets the things reversed and he doesn't understand it. But he runs multi-billion-dollar companies and is creative in his mind. I'm always reminding my daughters that they're not disabled. They are differently abled.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe dyslexia is. It's a differently abled.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off my high horse or not my soapbox on dyslexia because it is something that was,
No, I think it's all valid.
to me. And it's and I've seen that in you, meaning that the way that you think and the way that you're out of the box and the way that you create things is just amazing. So it's a gift. It's a gift that you have, I don't have. And sometimes I wish I had it.
And there's times when I wish I didn't as well.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. So let's go back to the one thing you brought up earlier. You said that you're very routine based. So walk us through a day with John. What does it look like? What do you wake up?
This is one of the most interesting things that I get asked this more often than almost anything else. And I don't mind answering it because it's fascinating to me that people are fascinated with it.
Yeah.
It has changed throughout my years. I don't get up as early as I used to because I don't have to. And I prefer to sleep in. Sleep is important to me. It makes me feel better, it makes my body recover better, and it makes me happier. I don't want to sleep in too late because then I miss the day.
Yeah.
So an ideal day for me is to go to bed by 10 and wake up by 6:30. 8.5 hours. Yeah. The first thing I got to take care of the dogs. Got to take care of their dogs, and then if my wife or I remembered, we set the coffee pot the night before. That's really important.
Yes.
And then I have a couple cups of coffee, and I don't watch the news anymore. I don't watch the news. John Assaraf told me this. He said, John, you need to be informed but not inundated. Informed but not inundated.
Exactly.
And
Good philosophy.
So what I do is in the morning, I no longer watch the news. And I'm so much happier.
Yeah.
But I have apps on my phone.
Yeah.
And I have one that's conservative. I have one that's liberal. I have one that is foreign. And then I have NPR.
Interesting.
And then I figure that somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Yes.
And if they're all saying the exact same thing, that probably is the truth. So I can aggregate that data, get a bearing on what's happening for the day, not be inundated, not have the imprint of the inflection or the bias of the newscaster, because even though they tried not to be biased, there is. And there is some in the authorship of the articles as well and the apps, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's a little different. It's not quite as intense, I guess. And so that's how I gather my information. And then, I'll just hang out and we'll watch, because my wife is a designer on HGTV, we always end up watching HGTV.
Got it.
But we watch the House Hunters International shows because we like travel and we like to see all that kind of stuff. So we end up watching a lot of those in the morning. It's kind of interesting. You live vicariously through the people. It's a half hour. You just kind of pet the dogs, hang out, and then we get on with the day. And the first thing I'll do then is I'll send out emails to my lists, to my tribe. I'll do some social media to get that out and push out my messaging for the day. And then depending on where we're at on time, we'll take the dogs for about a 2-mile walk. And we come back, and then we do about a 20-minute workout in the living room, and maybe watch the rest of House Hunters if we didn't finish it, and then that's it. And we're off to our day. I'll probably do a second workout later in the day with one of my coaches, and she's working on her projects, I'm working on mine, and then I've gotten better at finishing at a decent hour. Because when I was a new entrepreneur in my 20s and 30s, I would work until 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
My goal is to get up and start working by 6:30 in the morning, be super productive, and then finish by 4 to 5. And if I can do that, that's a goal.
Yeah.
What is super important to me is to absolutely crush the first 3 hours of the day and be so productive that in the first 3 hours of the day, in the first 3 hours of work, I guess, I can do more work and create more positive change and earn more revenue than most people would in an 8-hour day. That's my goal.
That's a great goal.
And then you don't feel bad if you coast a little bit later in the day.
Right. Just bang it out, get it done
Yes,
with.
yeah.
So what's that one question you ask yourself every day?
What's the highest use and best use of my time? And look, it's like falling off the wagon, I guess, with time.
Yeah.
What is the highest use? It's called HUBU, H-U-B-U, highest use, best use of your time. So it's kind of like the 80-20, but I even take it all the way down to 90-10 or 95-5. What can you do with 5% of your time that will create a 95% change or improvement? And then cut out the minutia and cut out the nonsense and try not to get emotionally charged about things as well. I've said it before, but I'm really pragmatic about stuff. And everyone has a different definition, I guess, of that, slightly different. For me, that just means if the data shows this is true and there's no conflicting or alternative data, that's what we're going with, and that's the way it is.
Right.
And if I have 7 friends and I all admire their opinion, they're all successful, they all have a similar mindset, they all are where I want to be, I will move in that direction because that seems logical and linear to me, and it's more of a direct path to get what I want. I don't care for anything that's a time waster, an energy waster, or things that create unnecessary conflict. It's good to have discussion, but I don't want conflict.
Yeah.
That's a drag, an emotional drag.
Totally. So what's that one question that you wished other people have should be asking you?
It's been said in different ways, but something to this effect, and it is, what keeps people from reaching their goals, their aspirations? They say, man, I really want to do this, and then somehow it doesn't happen.
Right.
So, and however you want to phrase that.
Yeah.
And then, so the answer to that, this is just my observation, obviously,
Yeah.
is that people are not consistent enough. It's kind of like when someone says, well, I tried social media. Well, how often did you post? Well, I did, I put up a meme 3 weeks ago of a kitten.
Yeah.
Or they said, "Did you go to the gym?" Well, I went once, or I went, in January, I went 5 days a week. Well, it's May. How you doing? Didn't make it. All right, so that's inconsistency. The same with starting a business. Well, here's what happens too: is people say, "Oh, I have an idea, but someone took my idea," or I had the concept for this, or I started this, but they never took any action. So what they had is a thought.
Yes.
And we all have thoughts, and they're free.
Yeah.
And they're never ending, but they don't mean a lot. So it's converting that thought into a strategy, into action, and to see it through to completion. But people get distracted, and part of the reason, I just thought of something that's really interesting. So in my last mastermind group, at the Penthouse Group, I had 28 people in the group, high achievers, smart people, some of them already making $1 million plus a year. And it was really interesting because they're all at different points in their career, all different people across every imaginable demographic. And about 6 weeks into the process, they all paused, and then when we did our coaching call, individually, and not trying to be conformist or anything and not conspiring, they all said to me, I'm having self-doubt.
Interesting.
All of them.
Yeah.
And in their own way, but within this short window of time. And so it seems to me, and this has happened before, but it just kind of clicked when that happened. We all get started, we get excited, we get motivated, at least for a while, and then the real work comes in, and then there's fear of failure or success or commitment or whatever it is. And that seems to be about 6 to 8 weeks into the process because you're starting to get some traction, but then you have to say, wait a minute, this is getting real. So you need to find out how to get yourself past that hump. And here's the thing too, and this sounds a little woo-woo, but you know this is true.
Yeah.
Whatever you're saying to yourself is just a story.
Yeah.
It's probably not true.
Totally.
So stop saying stuff like that to yourself because it really screws up your progress and it keeps you from your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap this up, and I know that this might be, I'm going to pre-phrase my question by saying it's an endearing question.
Okay.
But the question is, how do you want to be known or remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? Which is code for, John, you're near 50.
And remember, I said it's an endearing question, right?
You're near 50, and now people start asking about legacy. It's funny. I'll share something real quick with you because I was at an event in New York speaking, and I was the oldest person there because it was for the fitness industry. So they're usually 10 to 20, 25 years younger than me, and I've been in the industry a long, long time, and we all got in the elevator, or they were in the elevator, I got in, and they go, and one of them said to the other one, hey, we're in the elevator with a legend. And first of all, it was super flattering.
Yes.
I was embarrassed, but it was super cute, and it was funny. But then I think, I guess that's good, but that just means I'm old. Really funny. So, when they say like things like that, like legend, legacy, stuff, I'm thinking, I guess that's good. So
it's good. I'm telling you, it's good. And I say the reason why I ask you that question, I ask the question no matter what the age of the person is, right?
Yeah.
Because along the path, how you want to be remembered may change.
Right. Well, you know what? Even before I get to the answer, I'm going to add one more thing here. Yeah. Dr. Andrew Weil. Love him.
Yeah.
If you guys ever get a chance to see his videos, his audios, his books, he's incredible. Yeah. Harvard-trained medical doctor. Now I think he's in Arizona doing alternative and complementary medicine at the university.
Interesting.
But he says something about an ethical will. So rather than a will which will say, well, you get my TV, you get the Ford Ranchero.
Yeah. Now we're dating you now.
You can keep that
Ford
one.
Ranchero.
My first car was a Chevy El Camino. That's
so
that's kind of the same there.
Yeah.
We're going way back.
Yeah.
An ethical will is, what do you want to impart to your heirs and to the people who are familiar with your work? Mm-hmm. So what do you stand for? What can they glean from your life experiences?
Yes.
What is if you're on your deathbed, I guess, what do you, if you could say, world, if you could just do blank, and this is what I've learned, that's kind of like your ethical will. Yeah. And so he taught about doing this exercise about writing your ethical will about the ethics that you've learned and hopefully have practiced and that you'd like to impart to the next generation or people in your family. So to do that is probably what you should be remembered for, is the things that you put in your ethical will.
I'm going to change my question now.
Okay.
I'm going to say, what is your ethical will?
Great. I have done this exercise. It's been a while since I wrote it out, but I'm going to see if I can paraphrase. It's that we all can do so much more than we first think. And don't ever let anyone else hold you back from what you think is possible.
Yeah.
Because they can be sincere and sincerely wrong all at the same time.
Exactly.
And they can be good intentioned but misdirected at the same time.
Yeah.
And they may love you, and they don't realize that because they love you, they have power with their words. And then you take that to heart because you probably love them as well, and they're trying to be protective because of their fears or uncertainties rather than exploring your possibilities.
Yeah.
And so you can do more than you think you can. Actually, I remember Les Brown saying this to me too. He says, "You have greatness within you," and this is when we were filming The Compass. He was saying this stuff, and he wasn't directing it at me. He was saying it to humanity.
Yeah.
You have greatness. We all have greatness within us, but we don't often explore it or see it as full potential.
Exactly.
I'm going to give away a little something for the movie, and this is quite a while ago, you guys, but it was a great film. He says, and I think he was quoting someone else too, so I don't remember, but Les said this in the movie. He says, some men die at 35 but aren't buried until they're 75.
Exactly.
So imagine that. So you're dead inside, but you're a living being for 40 years because you're uninspired or you're not inspiring others. And that's a shame. Actually, I learned the definition of the word inspire by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and the way he described it is to literally breathe life into another, to inspire them. Wow. And so we think of it as just inspiration, like inspiration, expiration, or something to that effect. But it literally means to breathe life into another. So when you're inspirational to someone, you're breathing life into them. But I'll close with this because this is really important.
Yeah.
We often say this person empowered me, or I want to empower them. That's okay, and yet there's something better. When it's empower, it's like emboss or emblaze. Mm-hmm. It comes from the outside making a mark.
Yes.
Right?
Love that.
But if it's repowered, it comes from the inside, and it may have been dormant, but the person who inspired you allowed for the brilliance to come out, and they repowered you from what you already had.
Yeah.
And then you own it, rather than, because if someone empowered you, it's possible they could disempower you. But if you're repowered, you always had it inside. And then sometimes you just need a reminder to rev up the engines again.
So what you saying that leads me to one final question.
Okay.
And that is this. And I'm going to pre-phrase it by saying this. When I use the word wealthy, I don't mean being measured by what kind of car you got, watch, house, whatever. So the question is, and I answer this question this way, and that is, I know I'm wealthy when?
I know I'm wealthy when I can do what I want, when I want, where I want, with whom I want.
That's awesome. Very cool. So let's wrap this up. Where do we find out more information about John Spencer Ellis? Tell us about, we didn't even get into your companies and what you've done. I mean, they could check that out on the website.
Sure.
I think this is more deeper than talk about, this is who you are,
right,
not what you've accomplished.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's more important. Right. So give them a website. What do they follow you on social media? All that stuff.
Yeah, well, hey, I would love to meet you and help you if I can. And you can find out more about what I do from my site. It's my name. It's johnspencerellis.com. And then from there, you can go to my YouTube channel, Facebook, and so on, johnspencerellis.com. So thank you.
Great guy to follow. Great guy to, wherever you're at, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, every single day you're out there inspiring people and empowering people.
Repowering.
Repowering. That's where I was going. Repowering people by inspiring them into greatness. So appreciate the interview, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.